Top LinkedIn advertising questions answered. Online marketing can be tough and intellectually demanding, especially for the uninitiated. Other online advertising networks are pretty straightforward and easy to digest at first glance, but advertising on LinkedIn is a more steep process because you will be targeting top-of-the-line people on the platform. Having said that, we know that you and many other people have questions about LinkedIn advertising that need to be answered. Here we have compiled some of the most hot-button questions made by people with answers straight from the experts. Some of the answers in here can clarify stuff from previous videos, so watch out for stuff that you think might not have been completely addressed when you look back. In the A/B testing phase, I've been instructed to test different creative copies against each other to see which works best. But do these creative copies need to be created inside separated campaigns? Or can I just create different creative copies inside a single campaign? You can do both, but it will greatly depend on your goals. If you only want to test your creative copies, it will work well to create the copies and run them inside a single campaign, as you will only need to assess which one is better for driving the best click-through rates. The same applies when you want to try which copies drive more engagement. Now, when you want to track conversions, you will need to test those copies on separate campaigns. That is because you can test only one URL for every campaign, and if you want to track sales from one copy or just plain visits to your website from another copy, you will need to track separate URL addresses for each one, and you can only do that with separate campaigns. My campaign has a lot of impressions but not enough clicks. How can click-through rates be so low when compared to total number of impressions? How can I remedy that? When you get low click-through rates relative to your impressions, it means that there is something that needs to be fixed. First, make sure that your posts feature a visual element like an image. Images sized at 1200 pixels by 627 pixels work the best. Next, make sure that the message in your post matches the interests of your target audience. If you have a healthy following on LinkedIn, you can also try to post a content series and see which one drives more engagement, and then promote it as sponsored content. How long should a piece of content be promoted? There is not a definitive answer to that question, as people and companies have successfully promoted single pieces of content for up to 1 year before having to refresh it or just plain replace it. The most accurate solution is to gauge engagements over time. If a piece of content isn't driving the same amount of engagement as in the beginning, it means that it's time to refresh it. You can refresh it by updating it with additional and up-to-date info, or just by updating the creative copy that you use to promote it. If, after updating it, you don't see it performing better, it means that you will need to replace it. Are there any cost-effective strategies to create sponsored content on LinkedIn for small businesses on tight budgets? Content from your website is a great start. If you're new to LinkedIn but your website has some great, valuable content, you can use the platform to share it and promote it. You can also repurpose any piece of content, especially if you can split it into smaller chunks. If you have an ebook, you can create separate articles that can be released on a weekly basis. Also, it's a pretty smart strategy to check what your target audience is discussing, then target that subject. Is there an optimal audience size when advertising on LinkedIn? As a general rule of thumb, you should target at least 300,000 people and aim for 500,000, although the number will come down to your intended audience. When you create a campaign, a forecasting tool will show you the size of your intended audience and the estimated outreach. A good strategy is to start by targeting a broad audience and use the analytics tools in your campaign manager to see which segments of the audience are engaging the most with your content. Then narrow your audience and target it based on the collected data.